me all right?
Yeah.
Good afternoon, good afternoon. How was that intro? That intro was good, right? Get all the energy going out? Yeah. So, I'll introduce myself. Again, my name is Chivas Davis. I am a comic book creator and animator. And I'll allow Brandon to introduce himself.
I'm Brandon B. Fletcher. I'm a senior animator and animation director. We've known each other since we were like middle school, but our careers took different paths, but we're still in the same industry.
Yeah. So the very interesting part about this is I reached out to Brandon, 2 days ago, and you know, God works in mysterious ways, and the universe works in mysterious ways as well, where we had another person that was supposed to be up here with me, and the person called out, and a friend of mine was like, just call your friend Brandon, isn't he an animator? And I called him immediately. He was like, yeah, I'm available, and flew him out the next day. So it worked out perfectly because I think he's going to be the perfect representation of what we're going to be talking about on today. Also, as he said, we knew each other since middle school. So we went to Northern Middle together. All right, we're both Miami natives. Northern Middle, Northern Senior High, and Miami-Dade College all together. And we're both artists, all right? Not only that, but all of our friends are artists. So all of us have different realms or media that we deal with art. So our friends are graphic designers. You have another friend that's here that's a graphic designer, fashion design. What else do we have?
Interior design.
Interior design. So all the arts that you may know or art careers that people not introduced to, we know people in those industries as well. So a little bit about our history and my history as a comic book creator. I found the love for reading through comic books. Okay, so when I was a kid, my dad used to make me read these. Anybody ever know what the Reader's Digest? Anybody ever heard of that? Okay, good. I'm glad y'all understand. So my dad used to make me read that every Saturday and Sunday. Anybody like reading those? Yeah, you do? Okay. So I was not one of those people that like to read those stories. So I used to read, and so these stories were so boring, and I just didn't connect with me. All right, but every Sunday I did used to read comic strips in the newspaper. And so I had to have a conversation with my dad, and I said, Dad, I can't read these Reader's Digest anymore. I know you want me to read, but I need to read something that's gonna make me want to read. And so I was introduced into comic books. Back on, I don't know if any of you are from Miami, but in 199th Street, there used to be a Publix over there. Right next door, there was Eckert's. Everybody remember Eckert's? I'm taking y'all back.
Taking us
back. So at Eckert's, yeah, show our age. So there was Publix and Eckert's, and this one Publix was on the opposite side of the street if you're from Miami. We went to Eckert's, and I first seen my first Spider-Man comic book. And I ran back into Publix, and I said, Mom, can I get $1 to buy this comic book? And she gave it to me reluctantly. And that was my first, comic book that I ever read. And it was actually Spider-Man getting beat up by this woman. And that was the beginning of, or the genesis of me being able to love comic books.
All right. My story's a little different. I already was reading. I didn't have to read the digest like Chivas said, but I would read the Sunday. I would read the Sunday comics also, particularly Garfield, things like that. But eventually, I love superheroes. I love X-Men. I love Spider-Man. I love all that stuff. I love animated cartoons, Robotech or Macross, Thundercats, Ninja Turtles. I love all that stuff. Transformers, and when I was younger, I wanted to make comic books, and we would do our own comic books when we were young. But eventually, like I know you can show movement in drawing and illustrations, but I would have stuff in my head that just had so much movement that I felt like, okay, maybe I should get animation, which is something I already love, but as something I enjoy doing. I love comics, but then I was like, okay, maybe animation is my thing, and that's kind of how I ended up on the animation path, basically.
So, just to give you more of a narrative, and what I am is I'm a big proponent on education, and big proponent on doing what you love to do. Now, I was a teacher for Miami-Dade for about 12 to 14 years. I taught art at Charles Drew Elementary. I taught art at Northern Middle. I also taught art at Booker T. Washington Senior High, where I retired from, and Homestead Senior High. So my goal is to teach the next generation the opportunities that are in art, because as you may or may not know, people that look like you and I do not have those opportunities. And so, with that said, because we have a longevity in those industries, and because we had a very special and unique opportunity, being young black males and young black females growing up together in the arts, being exposed to drama, dance, music, which our kids mainly don't have an appreciation for because they're not exposed to it. I look to expose more young people to those opportunities. And as he said, we created our own comic books in middle school, drew them, colored them, wrote them, produced them, showed them to the kids in another class, and then we segue ourselves into high school. We end up going to the same high school together and continue that process. I think you have maybe 2 series in high school. I created this comic book series that I still work on. It's about almost 20 years old now. I still haven't produced the comic book, but the story is very intact. You guys will get to see it one day. But once we left high school, we were introduced to this guy named John Kittner. All right, we gotta put him as part of the story, because who influences you to your next level is very important. As we said about the elders, this is an older white man, but he still was our elder, and he took us to the next level of where we need to be in our artistic abilities. And so John Kittner came to our high school, Northern Senior High, and he said, there's a special program from Miami-Dade where we're giving a scholarship to any art students. It's called the Visual Honors Art Conservatory, right? It's called VAC. And what they were doing is they were going to all the high schools in Miami and finding artists and building up the art program. And that opportunity showed us, first of all, we got to go to school for free, right?
Yeah, full scholarship.
Full scholarship, got to go to school for free, and then we had honors classes. And one special thing that they did for the art students is, many of you may or may not know how artists are. We're very different, all right? We got a different mindset, we act different, we're very special and unique individuals. And so they would curtail the professors to deal with artists and to understand how we think and understand how we flow. And so that opportunity for us to go to those schools, go to that school and get the opportunity helped us, expose us to art, make us better artists, but it then also helped us get to the next level in our artistic ability. Would you agree, Brandon?
Yeah, definitely. I felt that experience helped pave the path for my career. John Kittner knew that I wanted to do animation, and he made sure that my drawings were at that level where I could visualize something in a gesture drawing and visualize the movement and visualize like the accuracy of the anatomy and things like that to prepare me for a future in animation, basically. So yeah, that was invaluable. And I think after that is kind of where our paths kind of like diverged a little bit, because after that we both went to, none of this was planned, okay? Yeah. But we both went to Savannah College of Art and Design after that to finish off our bachelor's, but I personally didn't like it and I left, and he stayed on basically. And that's kind of where our paths kind of diverged a little bit. And
so Brandon's being modest because in Miami-Dade College, in the art class we had, every week we had a different art assignment, or every different assignment that we had, John Kittner would grab the best artwork and put it in this window. So we all wanted to be that best artist in the window. And so during this series, we were doing figure drawing. Has everybody ever done figure drawing before? All right, so this is where you get figure drawings. It's nude models, all right? So older men and women, they'll come pose nude, not naked, but nude, and completely no clothes, and we would have to draw them in different gestures. And so I'm educating you all because I still have to educate in me. So a gesture drawing is a quick drawing, and you do what we did, 5, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute.
Incrementally, it gets longer and longer and longer. Like the first drawings are kind of to get you warmed up, get you on the flow, and eventually you're doing like a 10-minute drawing basically.
And so we would go through these gesture drawings and build up the anatomy, and then over to an hour, where the person had to pose for 1 hour, we had to draw them. We did charcoal, we did pastels, all kind of things. So Brandon's being modest because Brandon always, during this series, had his picture in the window. He's the best figure drawer of that group of kids that were in that group. So in order to be, this is very important, in order to be a great animator, you have to know how to draw the figure, all right? And John King used to say, if you can draw a person, you can draw anything. Because the human body has so many curves and angles that it's hard to do. But Brandon, he perfected that, which made him also be a great animator as well. So he's been a little bit modest, but if you've seen his drawings, and make sure you go to his website, BrandonVFletcher.com. Check out some of his work, but he's a phenomenal artist. And like you said, our paths diverge. And we have different mindsets for different things, but we always remain close friends throughout the process. He ended up moving to New York and going to
School of Visual Arts.
School of Visual Arts. I stayed at SCAD, finished there, and then came back to Miami. He stayed in New York, where he currently lives. But the next part of the story is, and this is important that you understand what education is for. When I graduated with my animation degree, my degree is in computer art and animation. When I graduated, they were closing all the 2D animation studios. So they were moving to a 3D animation and changing all the studios around. So once I got a degree, I really couldn't even use it. And so I had to, change my pivot. I had to change the direction I was going to see what I was going to do now as an artist with an animation degree. And so from there, I ended up just becoming a teacher, not just becoming a teacher, but I became a teacher. All right, I don't want to get in trouble. I became a teacher, educator, and but when I became a teacher, I told myself one thing. I said, I want to use the money I make as a teacher to invest into my business. So that was my mindset from the top. And I said, I'm going to give the school board 10 years, and I want to really, go to the next level. So, Brandon, go ahead and tell what happened on your story.
For me, I ended up taking a break from school after leaving SCAD. Life kind of just happened. Eventually, though, I was like, okay, I got to get back to school. I need to do, I want to do what I love doing. So eventually, I went to School of Visual Arts. By that time, I'm like 26 as a transfer student in New York, and then life happened again. The financial crisis happened, and then I wasn't able to finish school. So the only degree I have right now is still my AA from Miami-Dade. But like he said, I also think education is important. Like, I meet people all the time that say, like, oh, you made it in the industry, but you didn't get your degree, you didn't graduate. But I'm like, but I learned so much while I was there, and that's why I was able to do that because, my first year there, I had a professor who saw something in me and gave me an internship over the summer. And then after that, he hired me part-time my second year of school. And then once I found out that, I wouldn't be able to pay for school anymore, he was like, I'll just hire you full-time. And that was basically the start of my career. And I learned so much on the job, from just being in an animation studio and the process and sometimes the financials behind it. And eventually I learned other things like compositing and 3D animation, all these other things. So, I can sit up here and say like, yeah, I made it without school, but I don't think I didn't really make it without school. I think school was, and education was a big part of my career path. Also a bit of divine order, because if I didn't have that professor and I couldn't go to school, then I might have been like, not knowing what I was gonna do, you know what I mean? So.
And so with that said, when we say education, I think being able to have an open mind to be able to learn, any process, and success is, as we say, when the preparation meets opportunity, you become successful. And Brandon prepared as an artist, prepared as an animator, and then the opportunity came, and it was easy for him to step in, degree or not. He had the skill set, as we said earlier. And so with my story, as I became a teacher, I've been doing comic books, as we said, since middle school, elementary, middle school. And I went into a classroom and I asked, some students, do you guys go to church? Do you guys do this? Or do you guys have any spiritual level? And most of the time, kids don't have that connection. And I'm a Christian, so I said, I want to create a Christian comic book because I had never seen one. I had never seen a Christian comic book, and then I had never seen a Black Christian comic book. So I said, I want to be the one that create one. And I find in life, you got to be the one that steps out and be the different one. Elon Musk said it, Jeff Bezos said it, and whoever else will be the one. You want to be able to be the one that step out and be the best. We know that Jordan is the GOAT, whether you agree or not. He did it different. He did it different. All right, some people may say LeBron or any other. Okay, there you go. We got no's and yeses. But either way, when you step out, you want to be the best there is at what you do. And so I said, when I produced this, if you ever seen Christian comic books or Christian content, it's really kind of corny, or it's not something that you want to read or even give to your kids. And so I said, whatever I'm going to do, I want to make it industry standard so that it's on par with what the industry is going to do. And so I started creating a series. I wanted to make a cartoon. Again, both our degrees in animation. I wanted to make the cartoons, but sometimes the finances don't work that way. And animation is a very, very expensive process and laborious process. It's fun, it looks good, it's nice, but it takes a lot of time, effort, and money to produce. So I said, let me produce the comic books, and then I'll be able to at least have the story and the foundation to produce that. I have power over that part, and I'll do my part in that. So I've been doing this comic book since 2006. Right now we have 10 issues, and then now we're propelling ourselves to create an animated series. We have our first full episode, and then we've won this year alone 4 best animation at film festivals over the country. So with that said, we want to be able to produce more and produce more things that connects this generation to the next generation. And so I have another company called Paint with Faith, where we produce, or we motivate people through art. Sip and paint classes that we do for kids, senior citizens, and beyond. But we work inside the school board system, Dade County Public Schools, where we teach kids how to make comic books and we teach kids how to do animation. And so we want to be able to connect the next storytellers, the next filmmakers, the next animators from underprivileged situations that we didn't have the opportunity for, to be able to build out the next season of the new content that we're going to create.
Yeah, I think you saying about opportunities. I think one thing that we were blessed with, we had our parents were invested in what we wanted to do. It wasn't like, I want to go play football, I want to go play basketball. I was like, hey, I want to do art. And parents were like, okay, go to school for it.
Yeah.
If you go to school for it, we're all there. We'll support you and things like that. So I think, sometimes, kids that look like us, they are interested in those things, but I think sometimes there's nobody around them to say, you can do this.
Right.
You have this opportunity, and I think it's important that, kids know that, like, hey, people that look like us, we can make the next best anime, we can make the next Star Wars, we can make the next Lord of the Rings, through our culture, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so I think it's, one thing about me, I didn't have I had an atypical career path, so anytime I talk to kids or even colleges and things like that, I like to let people know, like, hey, those opportunities are there, you know what I mean? Especially for people that look like us, you know what I mean? So I think that's super important, and I think it's super important to foster the arts, in our kids, and not just dance and R&B and rap music. We love that stuff, but I think visual art is something that we as a community could foster more.
Yes. Absolutely, and I think exposure is the greatest thing. And so, the schools that we work in, I always go in and I say, how many of you kids know any black animators? And no hands go. How many in this room know black animators?
Oh, you know
You know two now. All right.
But the funny thing is, there's a animator named Dan Haskett. Not sure if anybody familiar with Dan Haskett, but he's been in the industry for years. He designed Ariel for Little Mermaid. He's worked on The Simpsons. He's designed Mo. He worked on Prince of Egypt. Legendary animator. I had the opportunity to meet him. He's become kind of a mentor for me. But he told me that, every year they would have this dinner or brunch in LA with all the black animators. And this was maybe 10 years ago. But he told me at the time it was like 50 people. And they would literally all just go and meet up, because it's not many of us in the industry. Like, I'll get jobs sometimes, and if there's another black person, you just you kind of point, you just go right to that, and you just immediately connect, because there's just not many of us in the industry. So it's just, it's crazy to me that all the animators in LA, all the black animators in LA, it's so few of them that they can fit in one place essentially, which is definitely crazy to me. Things are changing, but yeah, it's that was kind of an eye-opening moment for me.
And I think it's important what he said about having your parents and your community supported. We were blessed to have, our parents know each other, so both of our moms, and this wasn't planned either, worked at the post office, so they knew each other.
And we didn't know they knew each other until later.
Until we became friends, we didn't know that they even knew each other. And so, and then he ended up staying 5 minutes from me. He lives by Carol City, I live by Norton. So it's important that you have your community support. And as a teacher, I taught AP art for 6 years, and 0 of my students were able to go to college to be an artist because the parents did not support them becoming an artist. So I want to empower all of you that if you know a niece or nephew or have children of your own that want to be in the arts, that you support that. I mean, George right here, his parents always are at his events, and it's important. It's important that the parents and the community, because maybe your mom say, no, you got to be a nurse or you got to go to school to be a doctor when you're really an artist, but your uncle may come in and be like, sis, you got to support nephew in doing so. So it's not just the parents, it's got to be the community to be able to support. We were blessed to have both of our parents support the arts, and then they both bounced and supported all of us. So it's because of Brandon's parents that I went to Savannah College of Art and Design, because me, our other friend Brian, it's 3 of us, actually 4 of us. We all drove together to go to Skadden Beauty College, and that's how we ended up going there. And we just had that blessed opportunity and be able to have people around us and friends. All of our friends are artists, Black and brown friends, and we know with that community we can always reach back out and support one another. So that's very important in going forward.
And I also think that there's like a narrow view of like what art can be. There's so many things that out there. One thing that's a huge moneymaker right now, I actually saw a job posting about it, is medical animation. And the people need to visualize what a body is like. If you're teaching students at a med school and things like that, there's so much money in medical animation now. Is it as flashy as working on like Halo or like a Spider-Man movie? No. But you can make a living. Not everything, me personally, not everything has to be, it's like if you're an actor in Hollywood, everybody's not gonna be Denzel, but if you can work consistently over 30 years and make money and live comfortably and happy what you're doing, then that's also great. Not everybody has to be working on Spider-Man. You can still have a very fulfilling and successful career in other fields. There's now everything's digital with apps and things like that. So there's UI and UX, and you can design apps, and there's all these opportunities for art beyond just the entertainment factor.
Right.
And even for me, the past couple of years, I've been working in, I started in television, but the past 4.5 years, I've been working with interactive games that are educational. And that's been something that I really enjoyed over the past few years.
So I know our time is wrapping up, and maybe there's some questions in the audience. But let me just say this before we close. Brandon, he didn't say his resume. So he's worked with Fox, he's worked with PBS, he's worked with Netflix, and you also work with Nickelodeon, right? And shows like Sid the Science Kid, Word Girl. This is the animation that we talked about. The Hot Wheels show that was on Netflix as well. What was the show we talked about in the car?
Son of Zord.
Son of Zord, that was on Fox. So this is a legit animator that you can say, this guy, and he's worked, very deeply in the industry. But I wanted to leave, we've got 2 minutes. 2 minutes, if there's any questions that you might want to know that we can answer.
First one is, I have his website and I already went there. Do you have a website or social media?
I do. I have 3 social medias. Chivas the Goat on Instagram. My name means goat in Spanish. That's what Hispanic people told me. So it's a double entendre.
So go the goat.
Dad.
So the Whole Armor comic book is also the website, thewholearmorcomicbook.com, and then Paint with Faith, on Instagram, and then paintwithfaith.com. So you can find me all 3 places if you want to give more information.
Okay. And the next one is with AI and everything that we're hearing coming in with that. How are you, has it impacted what you do? Are you incorporating it in some of what you do? And how do you feel about it in terms of it being able to maybe mimic some of what you're already doing?
I have strong feelings on AI. So there's 2 different things. There's generative AI, which is currently happening, which is all the craze. You type in something, you get an image. Most of it is not very good. Then there's like technologies and tools that help make menial jobs like easier. So there's something called rotoscoping, where if you need to cut a character out of a background, like a lot of times like you just do it by hand, but the technology gets better and AI gets better for perceiving that this is my shirt, not the stage, and it can look at the pixels and say, this is a difference. That's fine. I don't think you can replace art because I think there's soul in it, there's love in it, there's feeling in it, and I think the machinery without a human touch is just very sterile. I think that as corporations, they look at it as cheap labor because corporations, that's what they're gonna do. They're looking to have cheap labor and maximize profits, so they look at it as a replacement for us. And I think it's gonna happen in some form. And I'm not really afraid of it because I think that, audiences are smart, you guys are smart. When they start throwing all the AI trash at us, which is not really ready for prime time at the moment, I think that people will accept some of it, and I think eventually they're gonna push back and say like, you know what, we don't want this. And I think people like us are gonna be like artisans. It's like the guy that makes his own bread, like the guy that knows how to make paper from scratch, you know what I mean? Because it's like, oh, you know how to do it for real.
Right.
And I also think that, people who are big evangelists for AI and say that it democratizes art, it gives people a chance, it's like, that's not true. I think we live in an age where there's so much information at our fingertips. You can go online and learn animation right now on YouTube. There's so much stuff. There's so many opportunities to learn. And I think it's just lazy to say like, I can be an artist now because you were gatekeeping art. It's like, no, you always had the opportunity. It takes a lot of work. I had so many nights in school, I was up all night, 2 a.m., all this stuff. Like, you gotta put in the work. But if you're not willing to do that, then, it means nothing. So that's my feelings on AI.
I concur. I think we had, that's it? Okay, well, I appreciate you guys. You got some questions?
Feel free, if anybody wants to talk, I'll be around, and if anybody wants to email me or anything like that, just reach out. I've talked to people like that all the time, so thank you.